The Owls' 2025 campaign is over and done with.
Temple suffers 2 losses over the break, as well as losing any chance at a bowl game.
I'm Haley Smith at the studio set. One of those losses included an emotional afternoon on Saturday versus Tulane. Later, I'll take a look back at the senior class saying goodbye.
And I'm Miles Thurston. I'll take you through a thrilling final week of the regular season in the American Conference. The title game is set, and I'll also have my Players of the Year. Inside the Nest is live and starts right now.
Senior day at the Link. This game came at the start of fall break, and it wasn't pretty. Tulane wasted little time taking it to the Owls at Lincoln Financial Field in a 37-13 Temple loss. Our senior day report is coming up in a bit with beat reporter Haley Smith. Hello and welcome into the final 2025 edition of Inside the Nest. As always, I'm Xavier Adams alongside Pat Dallahan. It's been 2 weeks since you last saw these beautiful faces, but I hope you guys didn't miss us too much.
Even though our crew went on a break for Thanksgiving, it was business as usual for Temple football. The Owls played twice over the break, with the first matchup resulting in a lopsided loss at the hands of the nationally ranked Tulane Green Wave. And on Black Friday, the Owls flew south to take on another nationally ranked Green opponent, the North Texas Mean Green. The Owls head down to Denton for their last chance to dance in the postseason, looking for win number 6. The North Texas quarterback Drew Mestemaker was the talk of the American all season long, and for good reason. He finds Cameron Dorner over the middle, and he does the rest of the work. He answers the 77-yard house call to put North Texas up 7-0. Next drive, Temple quarterback Evan Simon joins in on the fun. QB1 airs it downfield to the wide receiver JoJo Bermudez for a gain of 34 into North Texas territory. A few plays later, Owls on the doorstep. Simon finds the freshman tight end Ryder Cush to tie the game at 7 apiece. North Texas offense didn't even need to step on the field to set themselves up for success. Carl Harden sends it away to the return man Simeon Evans, who shows off the speed. He takes the kickoff back for 60 yards to set up the Mean Green way deep in Temple territory. When you have field position like that, you can't waste it, and they did it. Running back Caleb Hawkins takes it into the end zone and gives North Texas the lead. Temple on offense again. Evan Simon looking to pass, and it is picked off. Just the second time this season he's picked off. Delvon Hawkins there on the interception, Armstead. North Texas on the doorstep again. Drew Mestemaker looks to the end zone. He finds Terrence Lewis to boost the Mean Green lead to 21, a lead they build on later in the quarter to take a 35-7 lead into the second half.
Into that second half we go, and the Owls come out with trickeration. Running back Jay Ducker fakes the pitch and tosses it to who else but Peter Clark for the touchdown. Into the fourth, now the score is 45-14. North Texas runs the halfback draw, but Khalil Petit and the Owls defense is ready for it. They rip, and Adrian Lang scoops it up in North Texas territory. Jay Ducker takes advantage of the short field and punches in a 5-yard touchdown rush, but this one was already over. Owls lose the last one on the season, and the Mean Green advance to the conference championship. Final score, 52-25. The Owls tried their best to keep the last one close, but they couldn't escape the dog walk. The North Texas offense dominated the Owls for 4 straight quarters. They were led, of course, by Mestemaker and Hawkins, who each had monster performances and are continuing a historic run. Mestemaker had 20 completions for 366 yards and 3 touchdowns. Hawkins managed 25 carries for 186 yards and had 4 touchdowns for the 4th time this season. That's the first time that's been done since 1995. For the Owls, Evan Simon managed only 10 completions for 82 yards and a touchdown, while Jay Ducker ran only 12 times for 63 yards and had 2 touchdowns. A rough ending for the Owls' 2025 season.
You win or you lose. But for us, in the moment we were at halftime, we had to go out and win that second half. And I was just so proud how the guys battled. There's a reason why they're a top 22 team or whatever they are. And the chance to, play for the conference championship and maybe go to the big dance. They're really talented. that's one of the things where you look at the best teams in this league, you know, their speed's at a different level. And that's one of the things that we really want to do, offensively and defensively. We want to get more speed on the field. You know, what I needed to see out of our guys that second half was they were going to continue to battle. And we continued to battle. And that was, I was really happy and really impressed with that. So, you know, didn't want to end the year this way. You know, wanted to get to another game for a lot of reasons. Something that, you know, we set as a goal for the program. But it was nice the second half to see us keep on battling like we did. You know, most of this team is the team that, you know, we inherited. We didn't throw a hand grenade into the locker room and blow it all up, you know, and I thought they responded to us really well. And, you know, there's, you know, an opportunity coming up here because a lot of guys are graduating to kind of move this thing forward with you know, some new players coming in. And the nice thing is there's been some really good lessons learned during this season. I think some of the guys who are coming back will really be good leaders for us. So just so proud of, you know, how they battled.
Yeah, so this game for me, Temple against North Texas, there wasn't a lot for me to learn about Temple. I think the Black Friday game was a lot more about North Texas than it was Temple. They just ran into a buzzsaw, Xavier.
Yeah, no, I think this game, we're just at the point in the season where Temple seemed their problems were too much for them to fix at this point in the season. And when you're playing a North Texas team with the capabilities that they have, with Drew Mestemaker, as we said, Caleb Hawkins, both having insanely historic seasons. They're both looking like absolute pros currently. The 4-touchdown nightmare that Caleb Hawkins inflicted. This didn't seem to be a game that anyone really had Temple winning, but you wanted to just see them go out there and try to fix the things that have really been nagging them all season long. You know, the slow offensive starts, the bad run defense. But, you know, we didn't really see them fix anything like this, but I think it just gives them more of a guide as to what they want to fix when they head into the second year of Coach Keeler's tenure.
Yeah, and you talked about, you know, Drew Mestemaker, and you talked about the historic seasons that are having. I mean, if he so chooses to enter the transfer portal, which he probably will, he's going to be a very, very hot commodity. He might end up at Oklahoma State. Who knows? He could go to LSU, play for Lane Kiffin. He's going to bounce around. You know he'll be somewhere else next year. But for Temple, let's look at the good. Even though there wasn't much, they were able to run the ball effectively. Obviously, North Texas's run defense, the only other one in the American Conference that's even worse than Temple's one was, which is shocking considering how bad Temple's run defense was all season long. But yeah, for them, this game was about fighting, and this game was about leaving with your head high and leaving with a sense of confidence, because especially after a loss at the hands of Tulane the week prior, a team that's just as good, if not better, than North Texas, ranked higher in the college football playoff. It's about playing for confidence and pride and knowing, hey, next year for the guys that come back, they could compete, or that's the thought you're leaving with, at least.
Yeah, no, I think I like to always kind of fixate a little bit on that third-year rule. Generally in college football or in most organizations, they say you really don't have a good emphasis on or a good look at what your team really is until about the third year in that tenure.
Well, Temple would know better than anyone with Matt Rule.
Yeah, right, exactly. So that third year, when you really start to, I think, start to see programs kind of come together, and you really start to see the vision that the original coach's intent kind of flourish and bloom. And I think we're really starting to see that come together early for Casey Keeler. We've said it, we've been saying it, but the 4 consecutive seasons of being 3-9, you immediately come back and you're 5-7. You win 5 wins in your first season with head coach under the helm. They really are starting to turn this thing around, and it's apparent. Obviously, it's not apparent with losses like the ones against North Texas and Tulane, but these are going to happen when you're playing those upper echelon, top-tier guys in that conference.
Yeah, you look at, you know, how college football is, and it's never been easier to build a program quicker, but it's also never been harder if you're in Temple's shoes. But luckily for them, luckily for Temple, they think that they have the right guy for the job. But we're about up on our first break of the show already. That was really quick, but don't go anywhere just yet.
When we come back, we're picking our most impressive Owls this season.
Among those impressive players are some seniors saying goodbye to Temple football. I'll take a look at Senior Day versus Tulane on the other side. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The Owls faced another ranked opponent on Senior Day while looking for one more win. The seniors who were taking the field for the final time in front of their home crowd were hoping to end the day with a celebration, but Tulane crashed the party. This day was one with plenty of storylines, a chance at win number 6 against a nationally ranked team, and the final home game of 2025, which meant Senior Day in Temple's game against Tulane.
when you look at the potential, they have a chance to get in the Final 12, and they're right there right now.
Temple's 27 graduating seniors were hoping to leave the link with win number 6 and bowl eligibility. But the green wave looked more like a tsunami. Tulane raced out to a 10-point lead in the first half and never gave it up. At the time, this 37-13 loss was Temple's third straight loss. The Green Wave picked up more than 400 yards of total offense, which was 2 times more than the Owls were able to muster.
Tulane is a really good football team, but just, our execution level versus their execution level, it wasn't the same.
We did not execute at a high level today. Tulane out-executed us, and we shot ourselves in the foot way too many times to beat a ranked opponent.
Even with the loss, this group of seniors soaked in its last moments at Lincoln Financial Field as Temple Owls, looking back at all they had overcome and gained in their first and final season with Coach Keeler.
A special day for us seniors with it, all that we've been through here at Temple and, with what we've done so far this season, and, it's tough.
Oh, I told them I loved them. I got emotional. Because they really did buy in. If they wouldn't have bought in, this would have been a long year.
Coach Keeler and his Owls didn't reach their goal of bowl eligibility, but this senior class can be proud knowing they built a stronger foundation for the future of Temple football.
We've worked together getting this thing, going in a hopefully a better direction than it was going. So.
Temple's loss to North Texas the following week ended its 2025 season, but the future of Temple football looks much brighter than it did this time last year, in part thanks to this senior class. Live at the studio set, I'm Haley Smith. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Haley. It's only right that we follow up a celebration of the seniors with the celebration of Temple's most outstanding players from this season.
Absolutely.
So Xavier and I watched the tape, and our picks for Temple's players of the year are here. I'll start us off.
Go right ahead.
How could you not pick Evan Simon, the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour? What you see is what you get, and what you don't is better yet. He was unbelievable this year, arguably the greatest quarterback season in the history of Temple football.
Yeah.
Now, this is a program that had P.J. Walker, who had a really strong career himself here at Temple. He threw the most touchdowns in a single season in Temple history. Only 2 interceptions on the year, which is an alien number. That's second in America. The only guy with less was UConn's Joe Fignano. But you look at what he was able to do for this offense. He fought through adversity. They brought in Giovanni McCoy to potentially beat him out for the starting job. Not only did he win that job, but he had the greatest quarterback season in Temple history. Evan Simon, take a bow.
Yeah, what a dog. And with the connection to Evan Simon is going to be my player, the big guy himself, Peter Clark. You can't help but pick him when you look at, like I said, the connection that he and Evan Simon have built up all throughout the year. He's been playing at a remarkable level, and it's even gotten Peter Clark some NFL-level comparisons at time. And we were just seeing it there. The bread and butter for these guys was that seam route because Simon could put the ball where only Peter could get it.
That's right.
Yeah, it's been great for them all season long. He's been so lethal, and he's tied at the top with this receiving team for 6 receiving touchdowns. He's been a dog for this team all season long, and it makes sense when you look at how he's been playing. He has the pro-level connections, and he's also starting to be he's also a junior, He's a junior, meaning there's still a high chance we see more of Peter Clark next season should he not declare for a draft and should he not potentially transfer. So definitely a great player out of him.
Right, but it's just about time for another break. When we come back, Xavier and I will turn back the clock and look at just how the Owls got to where they were this season.
Inside the Nest is back in 90.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest. The Owls' 2025 season is officially stamped, so let's take a look at their final results. Temple's schedule was one of the hardest in recent program history. The Owls hadn't faced multiple ranked opponents in a season since 2021 when they faced 2. This year, Temple took on and lost to 4 top 25 opponents, a gauntlet in year 1 of the KC Keeler era. And the 2025 season was an eventful one, for sure. But Xavier and I are taking a stroll down memory lane and taking a game-by-game look at the Owls season. And I'll start us off. We're shipping up to Massachusetts, not Boston quite. For week 1, Temple took on UMass with a 4-year-long road losing streak on the line. They snapped it for win number 1 in the KC Keeler, finally. Casey's Keeler's first win. Evan Simon, a record-breaking performance, 6 touchdown passes on the day.
Yeah, and they steamrolled in UMass, and then they absolutely continue going into the Howard game. 55-7 score. The Temple offense put up 560 total yards. This is where it was the game where we really started to see the legitness of this team. We really started to see them piece it together.
Well,
but
the legitness stopped right here against Oklahoma, the first-ranked opponent to make the trip to Philadelphia since 2023 when the U came to town, and the odds-on favorite at the time to win the Heisman, John Mateer, had his way with the Temple offense. It was a really rough one for the Owls.
Of course, and it got rough again in Week 4 when they took on 18th-ranked Georgia Tech at the time. Brent Key had this team ready to go down in downtown Atlanta, and they were not messing around. The Owls came down there, and they just got spanked. It's what we kind of expected, but it's also what when we started to see the flaws of the defense start to solidify a bit, that run defense kind of being suspect.
And after that loss, they took a nice break right before conference play against UTSA at the Link. A terrible first half left Casey Keeler embarrassed.
Yeah.
And what did they do in the second half? How about 21 points in the third quarter in a tremendous comeback victory against UTSA?
Yeah, and then Week 7 immediately following that, probably the most heartbreaking game of the season.
Goodness.
The treacherous, gut-wrenching 1-point score loss.
Where were you game?
I was crying, but it was a 1-point score loss to Navy. It was heartbreaking, especially because the game was in the palm of their hands and they gave it up last minute. At the time, Navy was undefeated. It would have been such a huge American Conference win, and Temple just let it slip out of their hands.
Down south to Charlotte, where Temple had a really nice bounce-back game. Evan Simon threw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions yet at the time for QB1. 2 defensive touchdowns, one by way of the interception, one by way of the fumble. A big game for Temple.
Yeah, and then Week 9 at Tulsa, another huge game. An overtime thriller for Temple that they end up winning. Kajaya Holloway had 3 touchdown catches in this game, a monster game for both him and Evan Simon. But it was actually the defense, believe it or not, that ended up winning them this game during that. They were trying to convert the 2-point conversion. Tulsa doesn't get it, and Temple ends up squeaking that one out in Oklahoma.
Yes, East Carolina had 16 days off before they played Temple, and it's safe to say that they used it well. They had 614 yards of total offense. Evan Simon and the offense just couldn't get it going. Bowl eligibility in the balance for Temple in this game, and this is where the wheels really started to fall off, Xavier.
Yeah, there was more potential for bowl eligibility against Army. This was seemingly your best last shot at bowl eligibility, but they just got destroyed on the time of possession battle. Army barely gave Temple offense the ball, and when they did, they just weren't able to connect. Peter Clark and Evan Simon couldn't find their connection. The offense could never get going, and for that, they got bullied up in West Point, New York.
Yeah, after this tough loss to another service academy, there was another break. Heading into senior day, the Owls were 5-5, 2 more chances for bowl eligibility, and they fell flat against Tulane. John Sumrall said they were one of the bottom 25 teams in the country. Tulane, that is. I don't know how much I believe that. A 37-13 win over Temple for one of the bottom 25 teams in the country.
Air quotes on that one. And then Week 14, you get into another bottom. You get into play North Texas. Drew Mestermaker and Caleb Hawkins. I don't think there was a team in the nation that could have beaten them that game. They were absolutely on fire and electric. Caleb Hawkins and Drew Mestermaker proved why they're in the American Conference Championship, and they proved why they have good odds of winning that game potentially. So that's how the Owls wrapped up their season, a 5-7 final record with a 4-game losing streak to cap out the game and miss bowl eligibility, a rough one. But looking back at these games, there's a number that have emerged as particularly standout performances for the Owls. The first win on the season was, of course, one of them. The Owls beat the UMass Minutemen on the road, and they broke the longest road losing streak in the country that started in 2021. The second was the win over UTSA in Week 6. It was the first convincing win over a good conference opponent. But 1 week later, the Owls suffered what was likely the worst loss of the season. Like we mentioned, that gut-wrenching Navy 1-point loss. And they were at the time the undefeated Midshipmen. Week 10 at ECU was another tough loss. It was one of the last possible chances for Temple to secure win number 6 at home and bowl game eligibility, but to no avail. And then the final nail on the coffin in the season seemed to be the Week 10 loss to Army. It was one of the last seemingly winnable games on the schedule, but the Owls let it slip away. It's time for us now to slip away into yet another break. Don't go anywhere. When we return, our crew is going to school and giving the Temple football team its grades for the season.
Inside the Nest is back in 90.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest. Lucky for you all, I'm doing this read and not giving Pat a chance to gloat about his win in the prediction standings. He finished with a 10-1 record, while the reporters and I were just one behind at 9-2. But we're all bowl eligible, which is really all that matters when you think about it. It's final season for everyone, and that includes the Temple football team. The Owls did the work, and now it's time to give the grades. The crew and I looked back throughout the season and came up with our overall grades for the team. And Professor Pat, why don't you start us off?
Sure thing. I am going to gloat, though. 10-1, they're going to hang the banner up in TV3. But heading into this season, I didn't expect much from Temple. I picked them to finish 4-8, which would have been an improvement from the previous 4 3-9 finishes. As we know, the Owls finished the 2025 campaign with a record of 5-7, just one win shy of bowl eligibility. Yes, losing 4 straight games to end the season was certainly disappointing, but I can't sit here and say that it was a bad season. Sure, it would have been nice to make a bowl game, but Casey Keeler and company gave this program something it had not had in a while: hope. Since 2019, Temple's program had been lifeless. And in year 1, Casey Keeler and his staff were able to inject a sense of energy and competitiveness that we hadn't seen in nearly half a decade. It wasn't a perfect season by any means. The staff knows what needs to change for next season and knows there's a lot of room to grow. Knowing this, I'll give the 2025 Owls a B+.
Yeah, I feel similarly to that, Pat, and I decided on giving the Owls an overall grade of A-. Yes, I know, an A- for a sub-500 team. But this team did a lot by simply going out there and winning more than 3 games. Everyone wants to be upset about missing the bowl game, which is understandable, of course. But given the fact that this team went 3-9 for 4 consecutive seasons prior, it's hard for me to be upset at this season's results. We've talked about the culture all season, and it's for such good reason. Casey Keeler has truly instilled in the squad a new sense of pride and care for the team that you can truly feel throughout the program. There's obviously a long way to go for this team, but miracles don't happen overnight. And with a good recruiting class on the way, the clouds don't seem so dark this time around for the Owls. A- is the final grade for me. What are your thoughts, Ms. Smith?
This season, I was looking for bowl eligibility with an even 6-6 record for the Owls, but they fell just short of my hopes and expectations. Evan Simon set the new program record for passing touchdowns in a single season after a battle for the starting spot. His leadership this season helped to set the tone for the team and push them through some tough wins. That being said, Temple's defense seemed to struggle almost every conference game and had a hard time getting the ball back into the hands of the offense. I give the Owls a B for this season. What do you think, Miles?
Coming into this year, there wasn't much hope for this football program, other than the new coaching staff shaking things up. Coach Keeler is known as a winner, but this year there were a few games where the Owls found themselves just a play or 2 away from a win. And there were other games where Temple just wasn't very competitive, with 5 losses of 20 points or more. Temple did improve on its win total from the past few years, but there is still a lot more work to be done to make this program a real threat. They're on the right track, but not there yet. I'm not grading on a curve. 4 straight losses to end the year ends with a B- on the report card. Those are our grades for the Owls. We're coming up on another break, and when we return, I'll take us through one last week in the American Conference regular season and give you my Players of the Year. That's all coming up in 90 seconds. Welcome back. This week, there were 5 teams still eligible to claim a spot in the conference championship game: Tulane, North Texas, Navy, ECU, and USF. But we can't forget matchups between Army and UTSA and UAB versus Tulsa. We'll start with Navy versus Memphis. In the third quarter, Alex Texa takes the handoff, turns the corner, and finds the end zone to put the midshipmen up. Now in the fourth, Blake Horvath takes the snap, and he powers his way into the end zone for the touchdown. Navy wins 28-17. Now on to Tulane versus Charlotte, with the Green Wave having a chance to clinch a spot in the conference championship game. Jake Westflaw hits Amari Hayes on the jet sweep. He breaks the tackle, then reverses field, gets the edge, and gets all the way down to the 1-yard line for the 19-yard gain. On the next play, Javen Gordon finishes the drive with the rushing touchdown. Tulane wins 27-0 and clinches its 4th straight American Conference Championship game. We go to Florida for FAU versus ECU. In the first, Caden Hauser finds Rosario Rouse on the screen. He breaks the tackle, cuts inside, and finds the end zone for the score. ECU beats FAU big, 42-3, and finishes the regular season 8-4. Now it's Tulsa versus UAB. In the fourth quarter, in a close one, UAB punts the ball to Tulsa's Grayson Tempest, who muffs the punt. and UAB's Isaiah Jacobs falls on top of it. UAB with the ball now. Javen Jackson takes the handoff and finds the end zone for a 20-yard touchdown. Later in the fourth, tied at 24, UAB has the ball again. Javen Jackson scores again, icing the game for UAB. Blazers win 31-24. Now we go to San Antonio for UTSA versus Army. In the second quarter, Noah Short takes the pitch, turns the corner, and uses his speed to push into the end zone for the 81-yard touchdown. Now in the fourth quarter, UTSA is up 24-20. Army has the ball in the red zone. Cale Helms rolls out and finds Parker Pelosi in the back of the end zone to put Army up late. Army wins 27-24 and clinches bowl eligibility. For the final game, it's South Florida versus Rice. In the first quarter, Byron Brown finds Keyshawn Singleton, who breaks the defender's ankles and finds the end zone for the score. USF wins big, 52-3. The conference championship game is set and is headed down to New Orleans, where Tulane will take on North Texas. 3 teams ended the year with 1 conference loss, so the tiebreakers had the final say. Tulane had the highest rank in the conference, coming in at 24 nationally. That gets them into the title game. North Texas also got the nod since they beat Navy earlier in the year. The title game at Tulane kicks off on Friday at 8 o'clock on ABC. This year was an exceptional year for college football in the American Conference, but 2 players stood out by making plays all year long. Let's take a look. I'll start with my offensive player of the year, USF quarterback Byron Brown. He was simply sensational this year, having 3,158 passing yards along with 1,008 rushing yards with 42 total touchdowns with a 78 QBR on the year, which is first among all American Conference quarterbacks. Now onto my defensive player of the year, UTSA linebacker Shad Banks Jr., a real do-it-all defensive threat. He had 84 total tackles, 3 fumble recoveries, 3 interceptions, and 1 touchdown. He made plays all over the field. The competitiveness in the American Conference this year was impressive, with 8 bowl-eligible teams. And with the new college playoff format, including 5 conference championship winners, this American Conference championship game is bigger than it has ever been before, with the winner most likely claiming a spot in the 12-team playoffs. Those teams will be announced on Sunday. I'm Miles Thurston signing off from the studio set for the last time this semester. Pat and Xavier, back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Miles. But those were Miles' Players of the Year. Earlier in the show, the American Conference announced their awards. So let's take a look. The Offensive Player of the Year, obviously, North Texas quarterback Drew Mestemaker. Defensive Player of the Year, Navy's London Robinson. And the Coach of the Year, North Texas's Eric Morris. Xavier, quick hits, your thoughts.
My thoughts on that is I'm surprised it wasn't Sumrall. You know, he gets the nod at Florida. You know, I thought that going to Oklahoma State's not a bad job either, but just given what they did with the 2 programs, I guess it makes sense considering the success North Texas has had this year and overall record-wise. You know, it makes sense for him to get the nod, but I could easily see that being Sumrall. But the rest of these make sense to me.
So you talked about the coaches. Let's take a look at the coaching carousel, which has already ravaged the American Conference this season. At least 4 different schools will have new coaches at the helm in 2026. The first to make a change was North Tech, the aforementioned Eric Morris, who signed on to be the new head man of Oklahoma State last week. Then on Sunday, the American Conference took an even bigger hit. 3 different coaches jumped ship, all to the biggest, baddest conference in America, the SEC. Early on Sunday, Memphis head coach Ryan Silverfield was announced as the new head hog, as the head coach of Arkansas. Shortly thereafter, South Florida head coach Alex Golesh made the jump to Auburn, not even 24 hours after another thrilling Iron Bowl finish. And just minutes after the Golesh news, Florida finalized its hiring of Tulane head coach John Sumrall. Next season, Casey Keeler will be in just his 2nd season at Temple and will already be one of the more tenured coaches in the American Conference. So let's take a look at next season for the Temple Owls. 20-plus seniors graduating. It's going to be really different next year, Xavier.
Yeah, it's going to be different because a couple of those seniors graduating are ones we didn't get to mention when we were talking about the American Conference releasing their list. Peter Clark was just ranked on the 2nd team. He's a junior. But Cameron Stewart, JoJo Bermudez, Ben Osweke, Curly Ordonez, these guys were all also ranked either 2nd or 3rd team in the American Conference. So when you lose these guys now and when you look ahead as to what this Temple team has to rebuild given what they're losing, it becomes really difficult for this team.
Yeah, obviously with how college football works, a lot of these mid-major major schools, like a Temple
Yeah.
or an FAU or teams that are smaller within their respective conferences that aren't a Tulane or North Texas, it's a lot harder for these programs to move on and to move forward. But with the resources that Temple does have, we've seen what they're capable of. I mean, last year, they were almost able to sign an Ole Miss quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss. Granted, Ole Miss came over the top and doubled the offer that they gave to Temple, but still, they can do a lot with nothing. Casey Keeler had the smallest budget in Division I FBS football at Sam Houston State and was still able to take them to a bowl game.
He's so great at recruiting, especially when you look at the local regional scene. They have the third ranked. Temple has the third ranked recruiting class in the American Conference for 2026, and that's, like you said, despite a pretty slim funding pool in terms or in comparison to these other teams at the top of the conference. They have 26 commits with 24 different 3-stars, and one of those is a top 100 ranked quarterback at the position, Brody Norman out of North Carolina. A lot of people are questioning post Evan Simon graduation what we're going to see at the quarterback position. We have guys like Tyler Douglas, guys like Cameron Boykin, but we're also seeing a lot of guys come in for this recruiting class that Casey Keeler has really prompted up and brought up.
Yeah, 3 of Temple's QBs are seniors. Giovanni McCoy, Anthony Chickett, the Robert Morris transfer, and Evan Simon, the man that we talk about so much. So there's going to be so many different faces roaming the sideline next year and really getting a ton of burn. A concern that you had early in the year, funny enough, was the secondary getting hurt and the secondary, not being very deep and being really young.
Yeah.
That happened this year, so those kids have some legs under them heading into next year.
Yeah, I was really thrilled with a lot of the performances from young secondary, specifically, Adrian Lang.
Yes.
He played a phenomenal game against North Texas and had good previous games before then. So like you said, a lot of these young guys are starting to get a lot of reps, and I think as we see this Temple team move forward from the 2025 season, I think we're going to see a lot younger, though still experienced team. I'm very excited to see what Casey Keeler and his staff is cooking up, because they could just be losing more than just players. We could see changes to coaching staff. There's been a lot of questions about the offensive coordination, so it's very interesting to see how this team goes moving forward. But also looking ahead will be all 20-plus of these seniors for the Owls. The Owls will be losing some prominent players to the eligibility monster and will need to reshape the team accordingly. Losing players like Evan Simon and Jay Ducker obviously stings, but it's important to look at the other spots that will be decimated as well, like the defensive line. The Temple defensive line is losing players like Sekou Kroma, Alan Hay, Cameron Stewart, and more, who have all become defensive vets for the team. Not to even mention the secondary pieces they will be losing as well. This offseason will be a big repair shop for the defense, no doubt. It's time for one final timeout. We're up against another break. When we come back, it's time for the Pulse Check, where Pat and I break down the college football landscape and all the madness it has to offer.
Inside the Nest is back in 90. We're up on our final segment of 2025, so you know what that means, X-Man.
I sure do. It's one final Pulse Check, the weekly segment where Pat and I wonder at the soap opera that currently is college football. And Pat, talking about a soap opera, we're at the finale of a lot of different seasons here. Georgia and the SEC championship game against Alabama. You have Texas Tech and Duke in the, or sorry, not Duke. You have Texas Tech playing in the Big 12, Virginia playing Duke in the ACC. Super exciting stuff all around college football currently.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you look at the conference championship games, Ohio State clinching their spot in the Big Ten championship with a win at the Big House. They were able to take down the team up north. Yeah, convincing win. Just absolutely outclassed Michigan in every facet of the ball. Sharon Moore, iffy coaching season. They had the most talented quarterback, I think, in college football in Bryce Underwood, but we'll see how they bounce back next year.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And when you look at these games and when you look at this, actually, I did want to ask you, Pat, when it comes to these championship conference picks, who do you have taking things away?
Well, as you guys can see on your screen at home, Jeremiah Smith, the best player in college football, and Ohio State, I have them taking down Indiana. What a great story IU has been this year. Kurt Signetti, Fernando Mendoza. I'll take the Bucks over the Hoosiers in the SEC, the Dogs over Alabama. I'll go with Texas Tech over BYU. I'll go with Virginia over Duke, and Tulane wins our American Conference. X-Man, let's hear it.
Some definitely interesting picks. We agree on some similar ones.
Yeah.
SEC, I'm going to have to roll with Georgia. Obviously, Texas Tech and Virginia. The two that I'm going to switch up on, I am going to take North Texas in the Americas.
Okay.
We've been mentioning North Texas.
Yeah,
They're very
I
strong.
see that one.
That one makes sense in my head, but the one confusing one that people might give me stuff for
Yeah.
is the Indiana pick. It seems insane when you look at the machine that is Ohio State to
Of
pick
course.
Indiana, but I am a big Kurt Signetti fan. I really like
Hard
what
not
they
to
have.
be.
It's hard not to be.
Yeah.
When you look, I love when any team can just go and take something that wasn't good and build it up, and Kurt Signetti has done exactly that. He's really proven that this school, Indiana, cares about football. They thought they were a basketball school prior, and Kurt Signetti brought football to Indiana, and for that I'm riding with them.
Yeah, the saying that they have in their state is in 49 other states, it's just basketball. I guess they got to change that to football now.
Yeah.
But moving on, coaching carousel. We talked about this guy a lot in our previous coaching carousel, episodes and in the Pulse Check. Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
Jump ship to LSU.
Who would have thought?
I mean, everybody.
Everybody.
Right? I mean, Lane Kiffin, this move to me revealed who he really is. I was reading an article in the Sporting News, and a quote says, "Never in the course of organized sports has anyone been presented with a more glorious opportunity to rewrite an inglorious history." Mike DeSorcy, an awesome article about Lane Kiffin. He didn't disappoint. He did what he normally does. He runs away. He takes the money. He goes to the bigger, better job. He's had 5 of the most embarrassing exits from jobs in football history, because we got to remember what happened when he was with the Raiders. But I'm not a fan of how he handled that situation, and it wasn't great.
It's hard, but when you look at what LSU, like a school like LSU has
course.
to offer, a football school that's just consistently 24/7 all in on their program, they'll give you money to buy anything at that
Right.
school. So it makes sense. If you're looking for a natty, Lane Kiffin's best odds are probably there. But again, throughout the coaching tree, we're really just seeing we've been covering the American Conference all
Right.
season, 13 weeks of covering the American Conference now. We're just really seeing how the conference just gets poached for its elite
Right.
coaches. We saw Galesh go to
They're not
Auburn.
worthy of an at-large bid to the playoff, but they're going to steal their coaches.
Yeah, you can take every coach except
Right.
for the at-large bids.
Right.
We won't get that. But very interesting and exciting season, to say the least. But we want to thank you all so much for being here.
Yeah, that's all we have for Inside the Nest in 2025. 13 shows up, 13 shows down. And what a blast it's been to work with my guy, Xavier Adams. Thank you guys all for tuning in this season.
Yeah, it's been a truly wonderful season covering Temple football with the best crew. And we want to give a special thanks to our producers/directors, Logan and Emily, our executive producer, Matt Fine, #Trust the Fine. And of course, everyone else behind the scenes who works so tirelessly and effortlessly to put on such a fabulous show. But this duo will be back next season to cover Temple basketball, same time next semester on Courts in Session. So fear not, this is not the last you've seen of Pat Dallahan and Xavier Adams.
Thanks all for being here. Have a safe winter break, and we'll see you in 2025.